Hey guys, welcome back. This is Kimmy, your host of Always Talking Crime. We are going to talk about an amazing fucking story today. I was trying to get my boyfriend to do this episode with me, but our schedules have been both so crazy busy, and I really just need to record this episode today, and unfortunately he's at work right now, so I'm just gonna have to do this without him. But the funniest thing, I will do some commentary on my relationship with him and how we met and all this kind of stuff during the episode, but this is a crazy one. And when I say crazy, that's quite an understatement. I mean, I think they're all crazy, but this one's extremely crazy. I did want to give a shout out to all the new listeners. Oh my gosh, guys, you are incredible. I have a listener in Australia, and I have always wanted to go to Australia, so I might come to visit you, whoever you are. I'm just kidding, unless you want me to come visit you. But that's always been on my bucket list of places to go. And I have an Australian true crime story that is on my list. It's in the top 5 of things that I've been wanting to do. So I am actually going to do that story next week, all because of that Australian listener. And the week after that, hey, Germany, I don't know any German, so I can't greet you in any kind of German way. But I see you all listening to all of my episodes, and I'm so excited you're here as well. So I am going to find a most amazing German true crime story for you the week after that. And if you have one that you recommend that you want to hear me do, by all means, email me at alwaystalkingcrimepodcast@gmail.com or shoot me a DM on my Instagram, and I can maybe do that for you, because off the top of my head, I don't know for sure which true crime cases are from Germany. So if there's something you want to hear, whoever you are, all you guys, message me, shout out to me, and I could probably do that for you. But anyways, let's get started with today's episode. All right, gang. So, are you guys ready for this? We are going to talk about a dating site disaster. Have you guys ever met somebody on a dating site like Tinder or Bumble or Plenty of Fish? There's Match, there's Christian Mingle, there's farmersonly.com. What else is there? I don't know. There's probably so many. I actually met my boyfriend, my current boyfriend. We have been together almost 6 years. The first half of it was just casual, and we were not exclusive. And then we became exclusive after a short breakup. But we matched on both Tinder and Plenty of Fish on the same freaking day, which is really funny, because I had just gotten out of a 5-year relationship and a 14-year relationship before that. So I had never ever been on any dating sites, but by the time I became single again, that seemed to be the way to meet people, right? So I much prefer just meeting somebody like in person, like organically. But yeah, he and I matched. Like, I remember setting up my accounts on Saturday night. And when I woke up on Sunday morning, I saw that he and I had matched on both places. And we started chatting from there. And after that, it's just all history, baby. But there is a 2020 episode about this case. It's season 43, episode 7. This is the case of Dave Kroupa, and it is talking about some of the women that he had dated. There were many. He was quite a Casanova from what you're going to hear. I like to call them fuckboys, but at least he seemed to be honest with his intentions. So I guess I can't really call him a fuckboy, because fuckboys are the ones that lie to you and are still, creeping other chicks behind your back. So I guess he's not a fuckboy. I retract that comment. But they say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And you're going to see firsthand a huge, like a major, crazy as fuck example of that statement. Dave Kroupa moved to Omaha, Nebraska in 2012 after taking a job managing an auto repair shop. At the time, he had just broken up from his longtime girlfriend in their relationship. Her name was Amy Flora, with whom he had 2 children. It was the first time in a long time that he was single and on his own after being with baby mama for like 12 years. Dave didn't know how to really venture back into the dating pool, and he felt pretty rusty about the whole thing. So he figured that internet dating was the way to go. And let me just say, Dave quite literally jumped into the deep end of the dating pool without a life jacket. This man literally wasted no time dating multiple women on a casual basis, and he had no interest in settling down with just one woman. He was living kind of like a rebound type of lifestyle, I guess, you could say. And I've been there. Like, I had some like crazy wild times where, it was more of a rebound thing, and I didn't have like any thoughts of all about being exclusive with anybody at that time. And I'm like so not like that now. I like have like no, I would never want to be on a dating site now, because quite frankly, for me, it's exhausting. Like, who wants to like message numerous people, blah, blah, blah. Ugh, I would need to like fucking like copy paste what I said to one guy into comments to another guy, because like I don't have time for that. But anyways, this is the type of lifestyle that Dave was living at this time. And he was going on a kind of crazy like sex rampage with like numerous partners. So hopefully he was practicing some safe sex, because that man was putting it everywhere. Let's just say that. Dave had gone ahead and signed up for numerous dating sites, one of them being the one called Plenty of Fish, or they call it POF. The first person he met there was a woman named Shanna Elizabeth Golyar, who went by the nickname Liz. Liz owned a housekeeping business, and her Instagram, when he looked at it, it was full of happy and like super positive, motivating posts. So Dave was looking at her pictures, and he thought that Liz was really pretty, and he was attracted to her right away. It did not take them very long at all to set up a coffee date. On the date, Liz told him that she was a single mother. She was originally from Michigan. Side note, so am I. Woohoo! And Liz said she had 2 kids who were around the same age as Dave's children. By their 4th date, their relationship escalated, and they started having sex. Boom, chicka, wow, wow. But Dave was also upfront with her from the very beginning, good boy Dave, telling her that he wanted to continue seeing other women and he wasn't interested in anything serious with her or anybody else. About 6 months after meeting Liz, Dave was at work one day and he saw an extremely attractive woman walk into the auto shop. It was a woman by the name of Cari Farver. She was another single mom and she had brought in her Ford Explorer for some maintenance. When they looked at each other, they both could feel that there was a strong connection between them. Cari was showing Dave something inside the vehicle, and they could both feel like the sexual tension as they were standing there talking. And guys, like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that's the cool way to meet somebody, like face to face, and like feel the connection. Like, by all accounts, if I ever like was single and like wanting to date somebody again, that's the way that I would want to meet somebody, and not on a dating site. But anyways, by all accounts, Cari Farver was vivacious and warm, according to all of her friends and family. Everyone said things like, you noticed Cari when she walked into a room. She had a laugh, she had a smile, she lit up a room. You couldn't help but notice her. Everybody was drawn to her. Dave didn't really think it was appropriate or professional to ask Cari out on a date while he was at work, because I guess he was the manager after all. And he was probably like kind of nervous that, maybe she would turn him down and like maybe make a complaint, because, you just never know. She could like turn out to be like some mega Karen and be like complaining about him and get him fired or in trouble or whatever. But anyways, as luck would have it, it was meant to be. Cari was also on POF, and it was not long before they ended up matching on that site and connecting. So, of course, Dave wasted no time in asking Cari out, and the two immediately hit it off during their first date. I do want to make a note that they went to Applebee's on their first date, and when I read that, it cracked me up because it reminded me of one of my favorite movies. Like, I love Will Ferrell. I don't love all Will Ferrell movies, but my top two Will Ferrell movies are Step Brothers, of course, and runner-up is Talladega Nights. And remember, for those of you who have seen Talladega Nights, they go to Applebee's and they say, we should make a pact to always come to this same Applebee's and always sit at the same table, blah, blah, blah. So it just kind of cracked me up. Anyways, those are some Kimmyisms that you might get throughout my podcast. All right, guys, moving right along. So on this day, this first date at Applebee's, they had such a great time that Dave, being the Casanova that he is, he invited Cari back to his apartment after dinner was over. As things were heating up, Cari told Dave that she did not want anything serious. Dave, of course, felt like he hit the fucking jackpot, because he didn't want anything serious either. And usually, I don't know. I guess I don't want to say women want something serious because it could be the other way. But very rarely do people meet and they both want exactly the same thing. If people meet and one wants a casual relationship, it seems like most times the other person is looking, for a relationship or marriage, so he was like super, super excited. But as Cari was leaving his apartment at the end of their date, Cari ended up walking right by Liz in the hallway because Liz had come by like unannounced to pick up some of the things she said she had left there, which is super weird, like, and awkward. It was just a brief encounter, maybe 10 seconds or less, but this encounter would go on to have lasting ramifications for all three of them. Dave, he was so quickly taken with Cari that when she was tasked with a big project at work, he even offered to let her stay with him. Cari worked as a computer programmer and her office was located like just around the corner from where Dave lived. And Cari, she lived nearly an hour away across the state line in Macedonia, Iowa. So, of course, to make her life easier, Cari accepted the offer. It would be much more convenient for her to, work and get things done during this really, really busy time if she was just staying at Dave's house around the corner. But on the morning of November 13th, 2012, as Dave got ready for work, he kissed Cari out on the way out. He gave her a kiss and he told her, "I'll see you later." And he went off to work. But around mid-morning that same day, this is like insane. So Dave got a strange text from Cari saying that she wanted to move in together, which was very out of left field because, like, Cari and Dave had already talked about things just being casual between them. So Dave was kind of like having a what the fuck moment. Like, was Cari like going insane because like he offered to let her stay there at his apartment? And was she like, you know, getting like different vibes from him that he didn't mean for her to have? So anyways, he texted her back right away saying he was not interested in that arrangement whatsoever. She responded back almost immediately saying, "Fine, I hate you. I'm dating someone else. I don't want to see you anymore. Go away." That text was followed by a lot of profanities from Cari. And Dave didn't know what the hell to think. Like, can you guys imagine? He was pretty much blown away by her reaction to his text. He was really busy at work, though, so he turned off his phone and figured he would worry about the situation later. Like, he was probably like, I don't really even give a fuck about this. I have shit to do at work. And, yeah. Like, I could see doing the same damn thing. Or a block. I like that block button. When somebody's pissing me off and I'm busy at work or just don't want to deal with it, the block button is amazing. When Dave got home that night, Cari and all of her things were gone. Nearly 2 days passed before his phone started blowing up again with texts from Cari, like tons and tons of them, saying random shit like, "I hate you," or "You've ruined my life," or "You're a terrible person." Dave just thought, honestly, that he totally dodged a bullet. Cari's mother, Nancy, had said that her daughter was diagnosed with depression in her late 20s. A few years after having her son Max. And actually, like I also read in my case sources that Cari went through postpartum depression. And I had a similar experience after my second daughter was born. And really at that time, like postpartum depression wasn't really spoken about, or like there wasn't really any help or assistance with that. But now that I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I was totally going through postpartum depression. So eventually also she was diagnosed even with bipolar disorder. So she had like a bunch of things going on with her, like from the depression and the postpartum depression, and then eventually the bipolar disorder. I don't know if she was like bipolar 1 or bipolar 2, but there are more, than just one type of bipolar disorder. Cari had been seeing therapists, and she was actually on medication. There was a couple times throughout the years when she would stop taking the medication because she would like tell her mom and like her friends that the medication made her feel numb. So she didn't like to take them because like if you feel numb, you don't get to experience like any kind of enjoyment or happiness or, any of the things that everybody takes for granted, like all the feelings that we all get to experience. Like she didn't feel any of that when she was on her medication. But by the time Cari began dating Dave in 2012, her mom, Nancy, said that Cari was in a really good place. She was working at her dream job in Omaha, and Max was a thriving high school student. Around the same time Dave was receiving all of those intense text messages from Cari, Nancy reported that she too began receiving strange texts from her daughter. One text in particular claimed that she had taken a job in Kansas, which totally threw her mom. But I guess Max had told his grandma, like, yeah, mom did mention to me that, she was interested in moving to Kansas. So Max, by Max saying that, Nancy was kind of like, oh, okay, well, she never, mentioned that to me, and kind of, disregarded her concern, I guess. So many times, Nancy tried to get Cari on the phone to talk about anything or everything, but Cari just refused to call back, which was definitely unusual because Cari and her mom used to talk every single day on the phone, sometimes more than once. It was finally when Cari didn't show up to her brother's wedding that Nancy decided to report her missing. Nancy told the police that Cari was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was on medication. And unfortunately, the police jumped on that bit of information. This sucks, but they kind of had the attitude that this kind of thing happened all the time. Cari was an adult, and that when somebody who's bipolar stops taking their meds, sometimes they can start some really erratic behavior. But, at the end of the day, the police felt Cari's an adult. Cari can live her life. She has every right to not take her medication and, disappear, essentially. Nancy couldn't get the police to take her pleas about Cari's disappearance seriously. ABC News even reached out to the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office. Did I say that right? Pottawatomie. Yeah, I did. Pottawatomie. That's fun to say. Pottawatomie. So ABC reached out to them after the fact for a comment on the initial stages of the investigation. So after everything was all over, when you find out the very ending of this story, ABC News caught up with them and they were probably like, what the fuck? In a statement though, the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office said, the department takes all missing persons reports seriously, no matter the circumstances surrounding them. And then they also said the available evidence during the initial investigation was inconclusive, but we did not give up. So it really sounds like they didn't really give a fuck because, of what I already told you. They kind of disregarded, her bipolar or her mental illness as not, they didn't take it seriously, put it that way. And probably, to be fair, mental illness and bipolar and depression and anxiety and all of these things, there's so many things, it's spoken about a little bit more now in more of a positive manner. And back then, anytime anybody, had any kind of mental illness, people spoke about them like they were just crazy and disregarded things they did or their feelings. So I totally get it because I've had friends in the past, during this time throughout the 90s and early 2000s, I had 3 different girlfriends that were bipolar, and actually my stepdad, my late stepdad, who was really, really unfaithful to my mom, let's just put it that way, and did all kinds of bad things, he was bipolar. So I mean, at that time, people didn't take any of that shit seriously. So anyways, back to my story. Meanwhile, Dave continued to receive hundreds of harassing text messages and emails even from Cari. So she didn't just text him, she started emailing too. She would say, I will do what I can to make you suffer. Another message said, we belong together, Dave, which is, it totally sounds bipolar because it's all the vengeance, I will do what I can to make you suffer. And then she's like, oh, but Dave, I love you, we belong together. It's just, okay, I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, I think I've actually been there a time or two myself. Maybe I'm bipolar, I probably am, undiagnosed. or self-diagnosed and unmedicated. All right, guys. Dave said that most of the messages that Cari sent him focused on Liz, and Cari said numerous degrading things about her. Liz told him that she was also receiving harassing texts and emails from Cari. One day, Liz even called Dave saying that her garage had been vandalized. Upon pulling into her garage, she found that someone had written "Whore from Dave" on the inside of her garage in spray paint. It was obviously not Dave doing this, because if it had been Dave, he's not going to write "whore from Dave." So everybody knew it was fucking Cari doing it, like, being crazy Cari or whatever. So Liz reported this incident to the Omaha police in late November of 2012. As the weeks went by, Cari continued to miss more family events. She even missed her own birthday, and she missed this breaks my heart. She missed her son's 15th birthday. She also missed Thanksgiving, and then she missed her dad's funeral, which that's just heartbreaking that, her dad passed away and, she wasn't there, and then she wasn't even at the funeral. That's just really heartbreaking. I don't know how close they were, but that had to have been devastating for her dad to pass without his daughter by his side. Cari's mom, Nancy, was still convinced that something definitely was wrong. She was still getting texts from Cari, and she begged her daughter to call her so that she could just hear her voice, but Cari never would. Max also started getting messages from Cari saying she was going to Kansas and then she was coming to get him, but then of course she never showed up. Nancy said the texts started becoming mean and angry, saying to her mom, "You're not a good mom, you were never a good mom," and then telling her that she had always been so controlling. Nancy couldn't help but notice that oftentimes the texts, they would be full of grammatical and punctuation errors and so many spelling mistakes, which was totally out of character for Cari, because Cari had always been a stickler for punctuation and spelling, which, girl, same. I do not like when people do not use proper grammar, like there, and there. That drives me crazy. Or another thing that drives me fucking bonkers, and honestly, no, I'm not trying to throw any shade, but I listen to some podcasts, even podcasts that I like, and I even have some friends that say this, and I never call them out on it, but I fucking cannot stand when someone does not say supposedly right. It's supposedly. It's not supposedly. When they say supposedly, it makes me want to throw something. But so many people say it. But that's just me. So anyways, me and Miss Cari have another thing in common. We are grammar police. Okay, guys. Let's get back to the story. But by this point, the harassment Dave was experiencing from Cari wasn't just over text and email. He was also being stalked. On one specific night, Dave was sitting at home in his lazy boy with his feet up, just chilling, watching TV, trying to relax, and he suddenly got a text that said, "I see you. You're sitting in your chair with your feet propped up, wearing a blue shirt." Could you imagine how fucking creepy that would be? That would be insane. Absolutely insane. I would want to move. On another night in January 2013, this is almost 2 months after the harassment began, Dave was returning home from work when he noticed a familiar vehicle in a nearby parking lot. As he got closer, he realized that it was Cari's Ford Explorer. And having worked on the car in the past, he knew it fairly well. So he went ahead and he took a photo of the license plate and he sent it to the Omaha police. When police searched the car, they were able to find only a single fingerprint on a mint container. It did not match Cari Farver or anyone in the FBI's national database. Meanwhile, weeks had turned into months and Nancy still hadn't found her daughter. One beacon of hope arrived 5 months after Cari disappeared. A man called Nancy to tell her that he'd seen Cari at a homeless shelter and that she wanted her mom to come and pick her up. Nancy was like literally shaking, thinking, oh my God, we're finally going to bring Cari home and she's going to be okay. Cari's mom, of course, raced over to the shelter and investigators met her there. But when they all arrived, they learned from the people at the shelter that Cari had never, ever even been there. So they were like being led on like a wild goose chase, and it made no sense whatsoever. It was such a letdown, and Nancy was just devastated. Like, it seemed super cruel to play such games with her mother, you know? It was super crazy. 6 weeks into Cari's disappearance, or 6 months, 6 months into Cari's disappearance, Max, her son, decided to message his mother's Facebook account to see what would happen. I'm sure Max, just really missed his mom. You know, he's a teenage boy, and I'm sure he was suffering immensely. But right away, Cari messaged him back, and she said, "Hey, little man, how are you?" Max was instantly sus because, his mom had never called him little man before. So, of course, he was a super smart kid. He asked her to answer 3 questions to prove that it was really her and not somebody else. These are the 3 questions. Max asked her to tell him, 1, what his middle name was, 2, what was the name of their first dog, and 3, what is his best friend's name? And of course, Cari never even responded to that message. So it's just getting weirder and weirder. And all the while, Dave and Liz, they were still seeing each other on and off, probably because it was trauma bonding, and they were I don't know, they had all the craziness from Cari in common, so it kind of made them be drawn together. So Dave, of course, was still seeing other women, but seeing Liz as well. But both of them were continuing to receive hostile, nasty ass text messages from Cari. It was actually extremely common for them to be hanging out on the couch together, watching TV or something, and both of their phones would start blowing up with text messages and emails from Cari when they were together. At one point, Dave said he got an email from Cari threatening to kill Liz, and that it included a photo of a woman tied up in the trunk of a car. So at that point, Dave immediately called Liz and was yeah, what you doing? Are you currently tied up in somebody's trunk? And Liz was no. She confirmed that she was fine. Later, Cari sent Dave a link for a fake obituary for Liz. So Cari fucking wrote a fake obituary online and sent him the link. Yeah. I can't even comprehend that. Then in August 2013, okay, so this is really, really sad for animal lovers. I mean, just hang on one second. I'm not going to go into detail, but in August 2013, Liz's house caught fire, and the fire ended up killing all of her family pets. It included 2 dogs, a cat, and a snake. Fire investigators right away believed it was arson. And of course, Liz told police that she suspected Cari Farver was the culprit of, of the crime. So yeah, I know everybody loves animals. I can watch a scary movie or a true crime documentary and like so many people can die, but if a dog or a cat dies, like right away, like I start to cry. But yeah, I know a lot of people like snakes. I do not like snakes. So, but still, it is a living, breathing creature and it's a pet. So many people love even snakes as a pet. I'm not sad about the snake dying. I mean, I'm sad that it probably, hopefully all the pets died quickly. Hopefully they died of like smoke inhalation instead of anything else that could have happened. But anyways, let's just move right along. I don't want to talk about the animals anymore. Dave had become so fucking paranoid by this point that he ended up buying a gun. He bought a 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol. Terrifying intrusions kept happening to Dave. At one point, the auto shop where Dave worked at was even vandalized. Cari had spray painted along like the fence, like outside of the business where like all the traffic driving by the business could see it. It said, Dave Kroupa beats women. So like, that's just crazy because, like, now, like, Cari's, like, fucking with his job. Like, it's not just personal anymore. Like Dave was, like, actually, like, worried that he was going to lose his job, over all of this. A little bit later in January of 2014, Dave was with a female high school friend in his apartment when suddenly his cell phone started blowing up with all these messages. And then later they both heard someone like jiggering on like the front door handle, like trying to like open up the door or whatever. When they were in bed that night, a brick was thrown through the window. Like, okay, like obviously somebody / Cari feels like Dave should not be with any other women besides her. Dave's ex-girlfriend, the baby mama, Amy, the mother of his 2 children, had also begun receiving threatening messages from Cari. So now it's like moving on to like somebody from his past. It's not even anybody that he's with anymore. So it seemed like anyone that was in Dave's life suddenly became a target. By spring 2015, it had been 2.5 years since anyone had laid eyes on Cari Farver. Yet, all of the harassment still continued. Detectives Ryan Avis and Jim Doty of the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office in Council Bluffs, Iowa, had never even worked on the case, but they had heard about it in the office. I'm sure there was a lot of talk about it. They were so intrigued by Cari Farver's mysterious disappearance that they volunteered to take it on. The 2 detectives decided to approach the case from 2 different angles. One of them worked the case like Cari was dead, and the other guy worked the case like Cari was alive. So they started from the beginning, digging through all of the original stuff, at the beginning of the case file. The detectives were aware of Cari's bipolar diagnosis, but they didn't think that had anything to do with her disappearance. Avis thought it was alarming that there hadn't been any activity at all in her checking account the entire time she'd been missing. It was not normal for adults to just up and leave and like literally spend no money. And it made literally no sense for nobody to see Cari or even just hear Cari's voice. Cari had a good income. She had a beautiful home. And police came to the conclusion that, like, they simply could not prove that Cari was actually alive anymore. Dodie had said that the glaring detail that struck out at him was Liz Golyar, who he said had never been involved in Cari's life until she went missing. He thought it odd that all of a sudden Liz was this focus of harassment. Her name was all over every single report. She was found to definitely be a person of interest. The only forms of communication anyone had received from Cari at this point were electronic. So Dodie and Avis asked their colleague, his name was Anthony Cava. He was a digital forensic administrator at the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office, for help. Both Dave and Liz had also agreed to have the content of their phones downloaded in 2013 for the initial group of investigators. This content was included in the original case file. In the original case file, and Cava started connecting all of the dots in the case. The investigators all knew these messages didn't seem to really be coming from Cari Farver. Cari, or the impostor who is pretending to be Cari, sent Dave about 15,000, that's a lot of email messages over a 3-year span. So that's like 5,000 emails per year. Don't make me math, but that's a lot of fucking emails. It might have been upwards of 25,000 or 50,000 texts in all during that time. So whoever was pretending to be Cari got more and more sophisticated in what they were doing to try to hide their IP address and to hide their true identity. The investigators found a photo of Cari's Ford Explorer in Liz's photo dump, which included metadata that showed the photo had been taken about a month before the police had recovered the vehicle. Sus. Somehow, Liz knew where Cari's vehicle was before law enforcement even did. Another thing that was found on the phone, downloaded, were 6 calls that were made to Cari's residence. It was using the *67 prefix to disguise the number. So Liz was calling Cari 6 times, but hiding the number. This didn't make sense because she said she'd only met Cari one freaking time when they passed each other in the hallway. Whatever, why do you have to call somebody 6 times and you never even really spoke to them besides just walking past them? The investigators also found the photo of a woman. Guys, they found a photo of a woman who had been tied up. Remember that had been emailed to Dave? They found that photo. They determined it had been taken by Liz's phone. They also discovered a video recording that showed someone walking outside of Dave's apartment. It had been uploaded to YouTube under Cari Farver's name, but was tied to an IP address registered to, drumroll please, Liz's house. Isn't this crazy? In May 2015, Dodie and Avis went to interview Nancy Raney, during which, they said they believed her claims that her daughter Cari was missing, and that was not missing, gone, doing her own thing, but actually missing in the way that something terrible and tragic had happened to her. During their meeting, Nancy also provided investigators with another clue. She told them that after Cari disappeared in 2012, she received a text from her saying that she had sold all of her furniture, and she asked her mom to let the buyer into her house to pick it all up. So that was really weird to Nancy because Cari had, I guess, been like collecting a lot of like nice furniture. She selected all of the pieces like very, very carefully, and they didn't match, but yet they did match. You know what I mean? Like she had some antiques and there were some family items too. So Nancy was like, what the fuck? Like Cari would never ever sell these items because they meant a lot to her. As supposed proof of the sale, Nancy got, like, she received a picture of the check for the furniture that it was made out to Cari. So this check was made out to Cari and it was signed by Shanna Golyar. The police know that Liz Golyar's real name was Shanna. And it was yet another connection between the two women who supposedly were strangers. Hey, I said supposedly, not supposedly. Did y'all notice that? Granted, that didn't give them all the answers on what had happened to Cari, but they did know that Liz knew way more than she was telling them. The investigators also matched the mysterious fingerprint found in Cari's car on that little mint box to Liz. So that was Liz's fucking fingerprint on that box of mints. As their investigation was underway, Dave realized the pistol he had purchased for protection, it was missing. So he reported it stolen to the police. On December 4th, this is, okay, what a coincidence. But on December 4th, 2015, Dodie and Avis were at the Pottawatomie County Sheriff's Office when Liz walked in. Stunned to see her, they learned that she was there to file a harassment complaint against Dave's ex-girlfriend, baby mama, Amy Flora. After Liz left, Avis drove over to Amy's house to interview her, pretending... No. He drove over to Liz's house. Okay, wait. I have to look at my notes. Okay. So after Liz left, Avis drove over to Liz's house to interview her, pretending it was about her complaint. So I guess that when Liz walked in, she was talking to other cops, and then Avis went over there to follow up. Liz told Avis she had now thought it was Amy Flora who had been sending her threatening messages the whole time, and it wasn't ever Cari. The investigator, Avis, asked if he could download the contents of her phone so that they could review the messages. Liz signed the consent form and turned it over like a dumbass. But I'm glad she did. But yeah, she's truly a dumbass. Avis couldn't believe that she agreed to it. Like, he got access to all of the information on Liz's phone, and this was an important moment in the entire investigation. During their conversation, Avis said Liz mentioned she knew that Dave's gun, which she correctly identified as a 9mm Smith & Wesson, was missing, and she said that she thought that Amy Flora had stolen it. Liz then realized that she probably shouldn't know any details about the gun, and then when any further questions were asked to her about the gun, she started to become very vague about it. Like, she was kind of like, oops, I probably said too much. In a bizarre twist, Liz called 911 the following day, claiming she had been shot in the fucking leg while walking alone at night in Big Lake Park in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Investigators said Liz at first claimed she didn't know who the culprit was, and then later she said she thought it was Amy Flora with Dave's stolen gun. Investigators found it highly suspicious, of course, that just the day before she felt the need to tell them that Dave's gun had been stolen, And less than 24 hours later, she gets shot. Like, she gets shot in the fucking leg, like in the femur bone. That's where she was shot. It was pretty quickly determined by police that most likely Liz had shot her damn self. Police said that Amy Flora was cleared that same evening. Meanwhile, Cava got to work sifting through the contents of Liz's cell phone after the second download. He discovered that Liz had registered in upwards of 20 to 30 fake email addresses, all of which had some kind of variation of Cari Farver's name. Cava also discovered that Liz was using an app which allowed her to schedule future messages. This totally explained how Liz could be sitting there with Dave and then suddenly both of their fucking phones would start getting bombarded with messages at the same time. Liz was able to send messages pretending to be Cari, and they would arrive while her and Dave were together. So from Dave's point of view, you know, he always thought all this time, like, Liz could not have been the one to send him any messages because she was always, like, sitting next to him and getting messages herself. But Cava estimated that Liz must have spent about 40 to 50 hours a week impersonating Cari Farver. Like, what the actual fuck? Like, homegirl doesn't have a job? Like, or what the hell? Like, how does somebody have 40 to 50 hours to commit to impersonating somebody? Like, 40 to 50 hours a week over the course of years and years. Like that's insane. Like, I know she had like a housekeeping business, but like, was her business like, did she not have any clients or customers? Or like, because stalking seemed to legit be a full-time occupation for her. It's just, I can't even like grasp how much time that was. But anyways, Dodie and Avis brought Liz in for an interview 2 weeks after she was shot in the leg. At that time, they told Liz that, you know, they made Liz feel like they were on her side and she wasn't a suspect or anything. But Liz kept pushing them to investigate Amy Flora, the baby mama, and she had no idea that she herself was their main suspect in Cari's disappearance, which is awesome. I love this. So Dodie and Avis came up with a plan. They decided to tell Liz that they believed her story that Amy Flora had shot her, and they really needed Liz's help to get Flora to incriminate herself. The police had asked Liz to reach out to Flora and see if Amy would tell her anything about what had happened to Cari. Of course, the detectives knew Amy Flora had nothing to do with Cari's disappearance or the threatening messages that had been sent for years. But their plan worked. This is fucking awesome. They said Liz almost immediately fabricated emails she said were from Amy Flora. They started receiving messages from Liz. And Liz would tell the cops, she would send them messages and be like, look what I just got from Amy. And Amy was supposedly confessing to shooting Liz at Big Lake Park. Both investigators continued to press Liz to ask Amy Flora, who they knew it was Liz all along, but they were trying to press her to ask for details about Cari's death so they could kind of like find Cari, or at least her body. A few days later, Liz did exactly that. Liz forwarded an email to them that had supposedly come from Amy Flora, saying like that she had stabbed Cari 3 to 4 times and stuffed Cari's body into a garbage bag. The investigators thought the details were bone-chilling because they were like super graphic. As time went on, the investigators said Liz kept growing increasingly upset that they didn't arrest Amy Flora. Jody had to explain to her that he needed more information that only the killer would know. And what do you know? Within hours, more quote-unquote confession emails from Amy Flora appeared. The emails included statements that Cari Farver had been stabbed to death in her own car. These emails gave police Cari's vehicle as a crime scene, so they wanted to go back and look at that vehicle again to determine if that is where the crime happened. So this was like actually the third time that police had searched Cari's car, but this time Jody said that they pulled the fabric off of the passenger seat, and once uncovered, they found a red stain that was determined to be Cari Farver's blood. Because the murder most likely took place in Omaha, the Omaha Police Department had to be involved, and cold case homicide detective Dave Schneider joined the investigation. Detective Schneider brought Liz in for questioning and confronted her with all of the evidence that Dodi, Avis, and Cava, I don't know. I think I keep saying his name different ways, but anyways, you know who he is. But anyways, all of the evidence that those three guys had gathered so far, she was confronted with. The photos on her cell phone, the IP addresses traced back to her house, and all of the confession emails from quote-unquote Amy Flora. Liz, of course, denied knowing anything and claimed that she didn't have internet service. But while she was being interrogated, Dodi and Avis had gotten a search warrant for Liz's apartment. Inside the apartment, they found some of Cari's possessions, including a digital camera and a camcorder, which they believed Liz had stolen from Cari Farver's home. On the camcorder, they found a video of Cari talking about how someone had vandalized her car. It was time-stamped 2 days before she had disappeared. On December 22nd, 2016, Liz Golyar was finally fucking arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Douglas County Attorney Brenda Beadle, who prosecuted the case, has said that this case was by far the most difficult case that she had ever tried. Because most homicides are dark, but this one was so completely bizarre to the point where it would take some convincing to make somebody believe that this shit could have actually happened. People would never believe that there was any way that someone would let their pets die in a fire that they fucking started themselves. And nobody, like, fuck you, Liz, like, for even doing that. Like, I know, like, a human life is super important, but like I said, like, animals are so fucking innocent, and like those pets like relied on fucking Liz to take care of them. So fuck her, like, for lighting that fire and like letting them die. I can't imagine doing that to anybody's animals, much less my own little fur babies. Like fuck her. I hope she just burns in hell herself. And nobody would ever, ever, ever think that someone would shoot themselves in their own goddamn leg, right? So Liz's defense attorney, his name was James Martin Davis. He requested to waive a jury trial in favor of a bench trial. And this meant that a judge would decide the case. So not only was there no body, there was no crime scene, there was no murder weapon, there was no proof that Cari had even died, Martin said. We waived the jury trial to move it up so I could try this case hopefully before they'd find a body. So it sounds to me like the attorney actually knew or thought or felt that Liz was guilty. That's like the tricky thing about being an attorney, because I'm not certain that I could be an attorney and like defend people that I felt or knew were guilty. of a crime. And I know they're just doing their job and that's what they're there for, but like I wouldn't personally be able to do that. But anyways, so he was trying to do all this really fast before they found Cari's body. A few months before the trial was set to begin in 2017, Dave suddenly remembered that he had a tablet in storage, and he turned that tablet over to the investigators. On that tablet, Cava discovered a micro SD memory card that had also been used in Liz's phone around the time of the murder. That SD card had thousands of deleted images. Like, I can't believe that Liz didn't think to take that SD card out of Dave's tablet. Like that's just bizarre. Like, out of all the crazy things she did to do all this, it's crazy that she forgot that simple little thing. Like, take your SD card out of somebody else's tablet and, destroy it or keep it with you. But this had thousands of deleted images, all of which were able to be recovered. He came to a photo that no one had seen before, and he wasn't even sure what he was looking at first, but it turned out to be a decomposing human foot with a tattoo on it. The tattoo was of the Chinese symbol for the word mother. It was the same exact tattoo that Cari Farver had on her foot. It is shocking to realize that Liz Golyar killed Cari Farver, and she stood there afterwards taking fucking photos of Cari's body. At trial, Judge Beadle painted Liz as a diabolical and cruel woman, she's not wrong, who killed Cari Farver and then spent years of violently harassing others. Liz's defense attorney argued that all of the evidence from the state was circumstantial, that at one point Liz herself had been considered a victim in all of this, and Cari Farver's body hadn't even been found. In 2017, Judge Timothy Burns found Liz guilty of first-degree murder, yay, and sentenced her to life in prison. Yay! Throw away the fucking key. During his ruling, Burns said, quote, Cari Farver did not voluntarily disappear and drop off the face of the earth. Very sadly, she was murdered, end quote. In a statement to ABC News, the Omaha Police Department said, the unusual nature of this case and the great lengths that Shanna Golyar / Liz went to hide this homicide undoubtedly perplexed everyone involved. The successful investigation between the Omaha Police Department and the Pottawatomie County Sheriff Office resulted in the successful prosecution of Shanna Elizabeth Golyar and brought to light an extreme level of deception that law enforcement rarely encounters. Liz Golyar remains at the Nebraska Correctional Center for Women. To this day, she fucking maintains her innocence and claims Cari's real killer is still out there somewhere. Author Leslie Rule said that she received letters from Golyar while she was behind bars, one of which said, I will not stop fighting until I am set free and they find the right person. So, Liz obviously does not take responsibility for what happened. Leslie Rule is actually, I don't know if you guys know this, but last week's episode about the Diane Downs case, that was there was a book written by Anne Rule called Small Sacrifices that was made into a movie. Farrah Fawcett and her husband Ryan O'Neal starred in it. Leslie Rule is Ann Rule's daughter, which I thought that was really cool. And that's kind of why I selected this story to do today, this week. Easter Sunday, happy Easter, guys. But I decided to do it because I thought it was cool that Leslie Rule, Ann Rule's daughter, wrote a book about this case. But Dave has said that he wants Liz to go away and never do this to anybody again, that Nancy and Cari's son Max were the foremost in his mind, and they're unfortunately the ones that have to live with all the repercussions. Dave and Cari's mom, Nancy, have said that the investigators who solved the case are all heroes, and I fucking agree. Like, they're amazing. Like, that's what I find so interesting about like true crime, just everything that goes into like uncovering like who the guilty person is. They truly are heroes. They did a lot of awesome work in like fucking nailing Liz Golyar and putting her away. The 3 investigators established a scholarship fund in Cari Farver's name at the local community college that Cari had attended in hopes of associating something positive with her memory. I just love that. Nancy wants her daughter to be remembered as the fun-loving, talented, smart woman that she was. Nancy said about her daughter, Cari was only 37 years old when she died. If I could talk to Cari right now, I'd say, I love you. I'm so glad you are in my life. You have a beautiful son who's got a wonderful life coming, and I miss you terribly. And that, my friends, is the story of Cari Farver. Amazing, right? I know there were some twists and turns in that. Yeah. I'm glad that they were actually, finally able to find out who the person was. They haven't found Cari's body. All they have is that picture of the foot that was decomposing, but like there's still not a body. They've still never found her. They don't know where she is. And because Liz still keeps saying that she is innocent, of course she's not going to tell anybody where Cari Farver's body is. But I'm sure that the things that, she had said, that Amy Flora supposedly emailed her about and confessed about, those things were actually true. So I'm sure that her body was in a duffel, or not a duffel bag, but a garbage bag somewhere. I don't know if Liz burned her body or buried her body or dumped it somewhere, but unfortunately nobody has ever found her. So if you are the praying type of person, please say a prayer for Cari Farver's family, her mom, and especially her son Max. I can't imagine what it's been like for Max to grow up, without his mother. So anyways, guys, it's been super awesome talking to you again this week. I do want to let you guys know that I've noticed that a lot more of you have been hitting the follow button. If you could also rate my podcast, hopefully a 5-star, but if you could rate my podcast, that's going to help us grow, because it's going to help my podcast be shown in the list of podcasts. So let's just say that someone listens to My Favorite Murder or listens to Crime Junkie, which are both super, super popular podcasts on all the platforms. If someone is listens to those and they're searching for another podcast to listen to, by you guys rating my podcast, it's going to help those people find this little baby podcast, and it's going to help us grow. I'm going to be giving you guys some extra episodes very, very, very soon. So I'm going to be giving you guys more information about all of that probably next week. I'm still working on all of the details, but I'm going to give you 1 or 2 extra episodes monthly. There's going to be some prizes given away. Some of you who sign up for it will be able to get not only the extra episodes, but you'll be able to get our Sunday episode a day early. So all y'all will be able to listen to the new episode every Saturday if you want to. And you don't have to wait until Sunday, which is pretty cool. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, or you think that there's some case that you want me to do, please reach out to me. I would love to do a case that you want me to do. So far, it's just been me, with the exception of the Diane Downs case. A lot of my listeners had requested me to do that one. Other than that, I've been the one selecting what I'm going to research and talk about. But I would love to do a lot more cases that you guys tell me you want to hear about. So anyways, guys, I love all of you. I appreciate you. You guys have no idea how much your support means to me, and how much fucking fun I'm having. Pardon my French, but I'm extra sweary. I'm just having so much fun with this, and I want to continue to do it and grow it, to a huge thing. And I can only do that, with your continued support. So anyways, guys, I'm going to head out. But as always, keep talking crime.